But let's cross to our reporter Linda Mnisi, who is covering this story for us, the granting of bail for one of the accused in the murder of Free State farmer manager Brendin Horner. The other accused has been denied bail. Linda, a very good afternoon to you. What is the situation like, the type of reaction to the split bail decision this afternoon?
Well, a very good morning to you, Tammy. Good day. In fact, the Sekola Magistrates Court granting Sekola Matlaletsa bail here today, of course, denying his co-accused Matlamba bail, saying that, the evidence that's presented before court suggests that he could have possibly been involved in the commission of the crime. Also saying that, his relationship with his girlfriend, and taking into account that she could possibly be, the main witness in this case. He could possibly influence her. But joining me right now, I've got Sekola Matlaletsa's attorney, Machini Mutloung. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Mutloung. A very difficult one to prove, as of course, emotions were high and people calling for, the denial of bail. But unfortunately, the law does not work with emotions, does it?
Indeed. And one is actually content that this is a reaffirmation of the rule of law in a constitutional democracy, which is of paramount importance to us as Legal Aid SA, to ensure that we provide quality legal services to those who would want to access our services. I think it's quite a very important milestone in respect of the matter of involving Sekola Matlaletsa. Of course, we are a bit disappointed with regards to the refusal of bail in respect of applicant number one. But you would appreciate that the matter is currently sub judice, so there would be, we would not be in a position at the moment to express a view or so with regards to, what would be the next step, appropriate step that we would have to take in respect of refusal of bail for applicant number one.
Okay. The court also quite convinced that no evidence, as we previously heard, DNA really excludes him, and saying that no evidence links him to the commission of the crime. But of course, this court is not there to decide whether he's guilty or innocent.
Oh, of course. All that the court had to do is to determine whether or not there is an existence of exceptional circumstances which, in the interest of justice, permit the release of the applicant on bail. That is quite very important, because the bail court is not a court that determines the guilt or otherwise of an accused person. So to that extent, one is quite satisfied with the reasons that the magistrate gave in respect of granting applicant number two bail.
And lastly, the issue around the bail being set at 5,000 rands. He's previously told the court that he lives on social grants. I mean, can he even afford this?
I've already taken instructions on that. To a certain extent, one anticipated that there could be deviation from the submissions that we made, because this bail amount is actually the discretion of the court, and already from the instruction I obtained from my client, family would be in a position to put money together to ensure that he pays bail so that he can be released.
All right, thank you very much for your time. That's Machini Mutloung, Tammy, the attorney for Sekola Matlaletsa, who's just been granted bail by this court. But of course, we continue to get reaction of the news that's just came in, and I'm just trying to reach the attorney of Matlamba, who we know has been denied a bail. It's a bit of a struggle to get to him, but I'll just ask Leander to pan to this direction so that we get to hear exactly what he has to say about the news that his client has been denied bail. He spoke at length about why he believes his client should be granted bail.
Is very weak, and therefore on those bases we feel that the presiding officer has erred, and on that basis that is the reason that we feel that we should take this matter to appeal in Bloemfontein.
So you believe it's the primary the assessment that your client lied about whether the shack was locked that it forms the basis of appeal, or do you believe that he's been unfair in any way towards your client?
Yes, I've already indicated earlier with that piece of evidence that my client has made it very clear that he had no reason to lie to the police. He said to them, he stays in the shack one, and the other one belongs to the brother. But of course, the presiding officer, it's one of the issues that he has mentioned that he took into account. But there's other issue that he has also mentioned regarding to the issue of alibi, that the girlfriend indicated that my client was there, and at a later stage, he was not around. He came back at 4 o'clock. But you remember that there was a witness of the state who said he saw them, both of them, 6 o'clock in the morning, including applicant number 2. Now, it doesn't make sense that if the lady says applicant number 1 was at home at 4 o'clock, and there's another state witness, don't forget that both of them are state witnesses. The other one says we saw him at 6 o'clock. Right? So my view that the presiding officer has acted, and of course we'll go through the judgment, and once we have received instruction from the legal elite, we'll then proceed with the appeal in Bloemfontein.
Dr. Kgolenya, one of the witnesses, Binki in particular, saying that, well, he was not there, and the court saying he may have lied about that. You said that Binki might have mistaken, made a mistake in that regard. Do you still maintain that she made a mistake?
Yes, that's my take. And this is precisely because Pinky's testimony, as we have heard from the investigation, is that she said he came back at 4 o'clock, right? At 4 o'clock. And this other witness says he saw applicant number 1 and 2, 6 o'clock in the morning. That is a piece of evidence that is very material for the determination by this honorable court, and we still maintain that the lady might have made a mistake regarding the issue of whether the applicant number 1 was there for the whole night and what has happened, because the two statements, as you can see, they contradict each other. What Pinky said, who is the state witness, and the other state witness who said saw applicant number 1 at 6 o'clock. Surely there are discrepancies there.
Are you confident that the clothes that are taken in for DNA will come back not identifying that it was in fact the deceased blood on them?
You see, that is one aspect that the court has mentioned and which is very critical. As we speak now, when the court took a decision on the bail proceedings, there were no results as to whether the blood stains were that one of an animal, as applicant number 1 suggested, or they belong to the deceased. That evidence is not before the court. It's something that would come at a later stage. And the court has to take a decision with the evidence that has been placed before it, not what would come at a later stage in this case. And whatever result, those results could come either positive or negative. Right?
I heard you indicate that you're intending on appealing.
Yes, as I indicated, I've met with applicant number 1. It's his instruction, but as I said, that is subject to the decision of the legal aid clinic as to whether should we take this matter to appeal.
All right, there you have it. That is Joseph Kgolenya, who is the attorney for Skwitsi Mahlamba, saying that in fact he does intend on appealing that matter, saying that the magistrate may have erred in making that decision not to grant him bail. So as you can see, that is the decision that's coming out of the Senegal Magistrates Court, Tammy, this afternoon. Really, nobody would have expected such an outcome in this matter.
I must say, Linda, this case has really gotten a lot of public attention, specifically also in Senegal. We did see with the first appearance that there were a lot of people who were there. Any supporters outside, any protesters outside, or has it been a pretty much a quiet day outside the court today, Linda?
Well, Tammy, I must indicate that it has been pretty much of a quiet day. The proceedings went ahead undisturbed. We saw police presence outside the court, as of course they did indicate that they would keep a close eye on these proceedings. You would have heard State Security Minister Ayanda Dlodlo saying that this is a priority case and they continue to plan for any eventuality that may break out, particularly after this decision. We heard that should they be granted bail, they have plans underway to make sure that peace is restored. So some of the things that were also argued in this court was whether public peace will be disturbed, but the magistrate finding that in the case of Sekola, that will not happen. So essentially at this particular point there hasn't been much of the disappointment.
For now, time not very much on our side. Apologies, Linda, for cutting you off there. Time not on our side, but we will be back and we'll continue to focus on that story and reactions when we return.